It is evening, it is morning, another day. Clearly it is morning. Uh, so, Van Horsts, you made it out of the Oracle Hospital fungal hellscape infected wound in reality fairly well. Mr. Alex Hawthorne, the primary or secondary objective for the evening, depending on how important David is to you, was recovered. He is not great. He's not in critical condition, but he is very unwell. His life has been terrible for the past decade, and his body shows it. It's we'll talk about what he looks like once we get there. But right now it is early in the morning, early-ish in the morning. It's Van Horst early, so what, 9:30, 10?
Yeah.
And you are all sitting around in the main room, post shower, pre breakfast.
I would say pre-breakfast because we're just out of basically getting the fungus among us off of us. And I think that we would have, when we got in, we probably would have taken. I feel like we would have made sure that we went around a more discreet entrance because we're not presentable, and then called for another room for Mr. Hawthorne that's connected to us, just because of the fact that discretion is the better part of valor in this point. Would have definitely had I think all of us just wanted to scrub that off of ourselves.
Yeah, there was a shower last night.
Yeah.
And then another shower this morning.
Yeah, for the first time in the Tropicana's brief history, there were actually concerns about running out of hot water at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Regrettably, in terms of your opinion of humanity, but quite good for the Van Horsts, when places exist in service to money and those that wield it, there are always either official or unofficial mechanisms for discretion. When there is enough money for both whores and reputation, there is always a way to make sure that they never meet in the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you are not the first people to have requested a room. I need a room near my room, no questions asked. And you're not the first people to say, "Is there a side door?" So at this point, there's probably a little bit of gossip about the hooker or the hitman or the whatever it is that the Van Horsts have brought in. But frankly, it's small potatoes.
We're fitting in.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fucking hotel run by the mob in Vegas in 57. It's you're probably you could honestly probably carry a dead body out of here and have them be like, yes, an 87B, fine.
Yeah.
We have a form for that. It's okay.
Yeah. We charge that under concierge service. It'll show up on your bill.
So I'm going to be the one to ask, since we slept last night. I know that we all have disadvantages and things. I don't know if we want to do rolls or we didn't sleep enough to
Yeah, that's valid.
Reset.
Think about that.
Yeah. That I am asking because Clara always wants drugs. Always.
Yeah.
She looked at herself in a mirror and was like, "Oh, I look like death. I should do heroin about it."
That's her answer to everything.
Like this, because she's doing the heroin, it helps.
-1 out of 10 doctors recommend heroin for your complexion.
Yeah.
Wow. I should do heroin about it.
The answer.
It makes everything a little more rosy and chill.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just roll them real quick. And if Matthew ends up, who's running? Matthew has nightmares still, right?
Yeah.
If Matthew, if you eat shit on your nightmares roll, we're just gonna put that in our back pocket, for next game.
Yeah, that's fine. My question is, I know that I got a minor infirm when I sort of like had at the start of the everything last game.
Yes.
And you had said that would basically like the scene of that would be that I would go away. That would go away when like I had like a moment where I kind of like regained control. So do I need to do that one again, or is it possible was that it?
That's it. I mean, infirm shows up under stressful situations.
Yeah.
And generally, I feel, if you agree with me, let me know. But I feel that like getting back to your hotel room, taking a shower, putting Mr. Hawthorne somewhere generally safe and secure, I feel like that is a stress reducing behavior.
No, I agree. For me, it was just making sure that it had gone away.
Yes.
By this point.
Yeah, mechanically it's gone away. You probably still have a small amount of skin discomfort.
Yeah.
But not anything necessary to track on the sheet.
Okay.
So, Clara, how addicted are you this morning? Should you do heroin about it?
Yes, I rolled an 8, and I thought it was okay because I was playing Monster Hearts the other day, and I'm like, oh, middle of the road. I'm like, oh no, we're playing KULT. 8.
Nope.
That's not good.
No.
So that's fine. She's just gonna she's fresh out of the shower. She's put her robe on. She's like, gonna take a sleeve off and go use in the corner. It's fine.
Okay, it's fine.
It's fine.
Gonna go do some
She's
heroin
got a
about
contact now.
Yeah.
Matthew sleeps like a baby. I got a 15. So
nice.
He sleeps the sleep of the totally everything is fine, I guess.
Yeah. It's maybe the sleep of a man who considers his word important.
Yeah.
It's in as much as Matthew made some cold, but one could argue correct rational decisions in leaving Mr. Hawthorne there the first time, both kind of on screen and in some of our debriefs and just our friend chats, you have mentioned like leaving Hawthorne behind has stuck in at least the player's mind.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think that especially because of how he views so much as a like his word and his business and things like that are so central to him. Like there's a certain level of like, even though his reputation wouldn't be affected, it's important to him that he act in the way that he is appropriately supposed to act.
Yes. Well, being who you think you are.
Yeah.
Is important. And so, all right. So, Matthew slept like a baby. Clara's doing some heroin about it.
Mm-hmm.
And how is Bethany?
Not great.
Not great?
That was a 9, and then I'm at -2, so that's a 7. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we know how to deal with that. Also, if you ever have a moment where you, as the player, are like, now would be the perfect time for Bethany's brain to go completely fucking bananimals, feel free to either do it yourself or let me know. Like, I feel like Bethany's drifting a little bit, and I'm sure I will come up with some appropriate schizophrenia move for that moment. Okay.
I will.
All right.
Now coffee.
Heroin, then coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's a food group.
Yeah. I would say
nowadays it is.
We have our usual Van Horst coffee, which is the coffee with added benefits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm
with
sure.
Tea or Jennifer, depending on how we're feeling about Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with the sort of thing of like, we went back and got Hawthorne. I think that there's also sort of a level where Matthew was thinking about that whole unfinished business aspect.
You mean the part where you left your father in hell?
Yeah.
That unfinished business?
That part.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Sure.
We will. We should be celebrating this morning. We rescued your friend. We took care of those people in that place and those awful things. We're going to learn things from your friend. We should be celebrating. This is proof that we follow up on the things that we say we're going to do, and we do them.
Yes, because you are responsible.
We are.
You are very responsible.
As all rulers should be.
Yes. Speaking of responsibility, Matthew, a couple of games ago, actually, in perfect synchronicity, the first time you went to the hospital, you used your influential friends specifically to whistle up an extremely personally powerful and extremely skilled doctor.
Yes.
From the greater Pittsburgh area, Dr. Nolte. Now, he's been here for a while. It's been at least a week, I think.
Yeah, like, because he was
my internal
overseeing
calendar is about
recovery.
right. Yeah, that's about as long as you can summon a doctor out of an active hospital.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep him around, that's possible, but you are going to have to make another influential friends roll. Because at this point, he is starting to get phone calls from like the board of the hospital and his other doctors who are kind of like, we understand why you went, we understand where you went, we know who the Horsts are, but are you going to come back and do the surgery that you said you were going to do, or do we need to
Yeah. What are his injuries doing like? Like how, like, I know that he no longer has the penalties from them right now, but like he's still a human being. So like, does he still need, basically, would he be able to deal with his injuries himself, or would it really be beneficial for him to have a doctor still here?
Well, you at this point, Matthew, could easily simply call a nurse.
Yeah.
And essentially hire a nurse, which is entirely within both your social and economic tiers. To do that without much trouble. It's what you guys really called down, is you called down kind of authority and name and respect and used it as a crowbar to lever yourself from the clutches of this this hospital oracle. So in terms of just tending your injuries in downtime and for flavor, it's something that you can easily do by hiring a nurse from the Las Vegas area.
So, similarly, how bad is Mr. Hawthorne?
Well, he's unwell. It depends on whether or not... It really depends on your intentions for him and where you believe honor extends to. He has been the subject of dozens, if not 100, completely unnecessary surgeries. His body has been opened up and rearranged and put back in time after time after time. He is a mess of scar tissue. A modern doctor could probably write a paper on what's happened to his immune system, and why his organs haven't rejected themselves out of sheer fucking spite at this point. But he could also use a nurse, but also if you really intend to get Mr. Hawthorne all the way up to a quality of life as best you could, then you would either need to keep Dr. Nolte here, or you would have to figure out another quality of care.
We need a mob doctor, Matthew.
That's actually what I would...
Yes.
One of the things, basically, I would like to make another influential friends role, but not to keep Dr. Nolte here, because I don't really want to raise suspicions back home as much as his absence might cause if it's long term.
Very smart.
And so because of that, like, let him go home, let him do the thing, like, I can get a nurse, et cetera, but I do need a very good doctor who understands discretion and the discretion that money can bring and that favors can bring through my influential friends. And I think that's where I would want to go. And I think that's also good because it opens up certain reputational doors in certain circles that I want to be giving influence in anyway.
Okay. So are you going to attempt to contact Mr. Clamenza? whom you absolutely like,
Who I adore.
who you
clearly.
adore and absolutely don't own a percentage of his soul.
You know what? I actually do want to do that because I think that it's a favor that for him isn't huge, right? Like getting me a good mob doctor doesn't actually require him to do too much, but I will be basically, depending on what my role is, like giving him something in return and kind of showing that I can like deal above board is a weird word to use with the mob, but like I can give a tit for tat. And I think that creating something where you're starting that relationship is actually really beneficial.
Okay.
We'll see if he believes the same thing, because a lot of what Matthew seems to think is beneficial keeps coming off to him as like, you're gonna murder me. And so like,
Yeah, well, I mean, you brought a dude who absolutely like fucking wrecked somebody. Like that was a public dissection.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was, and when people communicate in violence and the promise thereof, they interpret everything in the same language. People speak with the language they're used to.
I think it was a very reasonable assumption for him to make. Like, I am not saying it wasn't. I find it hilarious that it was not the assumption that Matthew thought that he would make, because Matthew is actually not used to people who speak in violence. And so he is dealing with his learning curve, I would say.
Okay, well, let's see let's stat a point on that learning curve. So roll that influential friends.
Okay, well, that wasn't the best first roll. That was a better one. So influential friends is plus charisma, right?
I'm double checking, but I'm pretty certain you're right.
Oh, I would hope so.
It'd be really sad if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So that's already a 3. Plus 11. So that's 14. Ah, so close.
Okay.
The first one I rolled was a 2, and I got real worried for a second.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But then I rolled a 9, so it was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get it.
Okay. I do have the drawback, though, because it was a 14, not a 15.
Yes. He asks a weird question, and it's up to you to decide if Matthew can interpret this correctly.
Okay.
He asks if David is as good of an actor as he is a fighter.
Huh. I'm not sure whether or not he would interpret that correctly. Can I do a read a person?
Yeah, sure.
That's plus intuition.
That's what I think. Yes, plus intuition.
Thank God. Because I rolled a 9. That's a 10.
Oh, jeez.
It's a 10. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're not entirely certain, but you can piece together some context clues and a couple of movies you saw. You think he might be asking you if David's willing to throw a fight.
Mm-hmm. His response is that David is a very straightforward individual. His skills
Okay.
do not lie in acting.
Okay.
But
Bracket.
yeah.
Clamenza disliked that. Close bracket. Then he says something else after that. So clearly that he wasn't thrilled with that, because that was what he hoped. His second request, his second cost, is that essentially he wants you to come to a fight and lose some money.
That I can do.
He dresses it up, but essentially what he wants is he would like you to make a couple of large bets that you should lose.
His response to that is that he's always willing to put investments in new relationships.
Very good. Good. Clamenza, you can tell that Clamenza, like I described before, he is not a generational.
Yeah,
you know,
he's not.
He is not played by Marlon Brando. This is not generational Sicilian mafia. This is not what you could consider royalty. These are not the crime versions of the Van Horsts. This guy is somewhere in the middle. This guy is middle management. But the problem with middle management, as you know, Matthew, you know so well, that sometimes middle management wants to act like upper management.
Oh, they do.
And so they parade out some words they don't particularly know, and their syntax sometimes gets a little funny because you can hear as they try to replicate some syntaxes and some language structures that they've heard before. I'm sure you've heard at least one really terrible attempt to occlude a Pittsburgh Yinzer accent with something that could arguably be called transatlantic in bad light. It went poorly, but the attempt was made, for better or for worse. So yes, he says something like, "I'm glad that men like us can understand each other," or something like that, and you're like, you're not like me.
Matthew will humor him, and I think that it's the sort of thing where like he will say the right words and he will behave in the like friendly way, and the expression on his face while he's on the phone to like his sisters is just like
Yeah, Clara stops like mid putting on makeup going
and it's very much, it reminds me of like when he like was starting out and was dealing with like the guy that he the one like connection he could make that time that he just completely bombed at like
and
he had to be like, oh yes, we are like the same people, we are so similar, yes, you and I.
Just us regular Joes chasing the American dream. Self-made men, what could be better?
Yeah, it's very much that sort of thing where he's like, he'll say what needs to be said so that he can get this person as a stepping stone, essentially.
Yeah. All right. You might. Yeah. So that solves itself. You get a mob doctor.
Okay.
Well, he was an asshole, but did it work?
It worked. We'll have someone who can look over Mr. Hawthorne and make sure that he can get back to a state of life that's at least functional.
And you?
I should probably just have a nurse.
As long as you have somebody. That's all I care about.
Somebody.
I'm doing a lot better lately.
I know you are. I want it to continue, especially if we're staying here longer.
Yes, which it looks like we are. I'm going to need to make some calls relatively soon in the next few days. I didn't set things up. I didn't prepare things for us to be here so long. But I think it's more important that we stay here. There are people that I think I can call and who I can trust to not run things in ways that I would disapprove of.
It's fine. I'm more worried about Mr. Hawthorne's health than yours.
I know. How are you both doing?
Clara does the Miyazaki character float where her toes just like barely touch the ground. There's no hiding it.
She's doing great.
She's fine.
So he'll kind of like look at like, and there's definitely that sort of realization in his eyes, like, oh, you're very high right now. Okay, that's a tomorrow problem. He says every day.
Wrong.
It's always a tomorrow problem when it's happening every day. So
Hey, Bethany will have a little conversation with Matthew soon.
yeah, he will actually look over to Bethany though and try to gauge how she's doing.
Bethany's brushing her hair.
Okay.
Just.
We are in the middle of women in the 50s
Yep.
putting their faces on literally.
He's like, well, it looks like you're busy.
Call some of your mob friends. We'll be done in 45 minutes.
No, but by the way, I think Erica has a clip for it, and if she doesn't, I know where to find one. If you have never seen a 1940s, 1950s makeup counter,
Oh, they're so cool.
prepare by hand powdered makeup, you are missing out. Like, it should be voiced by the guy from How It's Made. It's incredible. Because they combine powders and colors and everything else and mix it right there. You don't go to the store and pick it out. It's really cool. You know,
Yeah.
bespoke
We're
everything
using-
is neat.
All 50s stuff right now. Like, this is mascara that I'm using. It's a cake, it's a brick, and you put water on it.
Yep, same.
And we're both using Besame, who makes the best.
Oh.
We're not a Besame commercial, but they make the best vintage stuff. And
That is what we both sat here and put on our faces.
yeah, beautiful.
Whatever.
Yeah.
While the ladies put on their faces, Matthew's gonna go to actually get like his clothing on. His face is already here.
Yeah, he brought his face with him.
Brought
How
his face
smart.
with him. It's great. He slept with it. But as he does so, he's going to still be, kind of going over things, sort of like from like a distance.
Yes. Well, it's the classic hotel room call from the door of the dressing
Yeah.
room.
Basically.
Yes. So has anyone ordered breakfast? Is food even on our minds?
Breakfast, and we should check on Mr. Hawthorne. He might still be asleep, but if he is not, we should order him breakfast as well. Something that will
Easy to
hopefully
keep
start
down?
getting some meat back onto his bones.
I don't know exactly what he can stomach, so we should get a lot of things.
You put him in a room.
Yeah.
He generally seemed okay.
Okay.
Like he's probably bedridden or let's just say for convenience's sake nearly bedridden. Like he can make it to the bathroom, he could make it to the front door. So, and I'm sure that you guys didn't say don't order any room service. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Oh, no,
something
of
like,
course
oh
not.
my gosh, dial 0, get whatever you think you can stomach was said. So, while yes, we are going to check on Mr. Hawthorne, it is not necessary that
We
you
have to feed him.
make sure that he
All
is
right.
fed. If he wakes up
Okay.
and he's hungry, I mean, he is, as much as he's been through a lot, he is also a fully grown adult who generally has his faculties about him.
Okay.
So,
That's actually helpful just to know of like
To know.
how well he's doing.
now, honestly, probably like just coming from the classic male to male connection,
Mhm.
Matthew, probably what would get him feeling the best was clothing.
Yes.
So it's whether you want to go all out and bring a tailor in, or if you just simply want to try to get him some off the rack what have yous, or whatever you want to do, getting him in clothes that make him feel like himself. You know the power of that. All of you know the power of putting on your your totemic outfits. So
I think that what Matthew would want to do is basically just have a tailor come.
fine.
We don't know his measurements. We don't know his style. And it's also a display of power and wealth inherently, which is being done as a kindness, but like there is power to that.
Yes.
So he'll actually put a call in for that, probably with the concierge.
Yeah, sure.
If he can get one sent to his room. He'll also call Mr. Hawthorne, so that's not a surprise.
Yes. Mr. Hawthorne sounds like he's eating.
Yes.
So we'll spare the larger conversation for when you guys actually go in and check on him.
Yeah. This is a more simple one.
Yeah, just quickly, hello, good morning. Wow, thank you for getting me. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. Yes, I'm ordering breakfast. These eggs are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can get around enough. He absolutely fights you tooth and nail on a tailor, not because he's offended by it, but because he is not the kind of man to accept charity. And so there is a little bit of just like, you don't have any clothes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to get you a closet full of clothes, but let me get you feeling like yourself, or if Matthew wants to say it differently, but there is some back and forth.
If he, so he's already helped me. So there's also that aspect. And then I helped him. If there is a desire at some point for us to continue working together and helping each other, at some point we will help each other again.
Yes. You get through to him eventually, but you can recognize a little bit of prickled pride.
Oh, yeah.
Now as he returns to the world and he gets... as he returns to the illusion, it asserts itself quite aggressively on him. So now things like pride and honor and money and authority, all of the 10 locks on the cage start kind of clicking shut around him personally very quickly.
That's interesting. I think that Matthew, there's a sort of aspect where like that, I think, is one of the first times that Matthew realizes that like those things could be locks on the cage. Because he hasn't ever thought of it that way, right? Like power and authority are part of what he wants, and what he wants is clearly the correct thing to do.
Of course.
But also, I think that there's an aspect of like realizing that focus in the case of Mr. Hawthorne, because I think it's easier to see that when it's not you.
Yeah.
Is unreasonable. I think that like I don't think that he's fully kind of percolated it.
Okay. I mean, we could just make that a narrative aside that
but that's like a little narrative. I want you like basically, yeah, like I want you to know that like that he's kind of like starting to have sort of a percolation there of like, well, that's not important in this case.
Yes, and isn't it interesting how quickly someone reaches for those things?
Yes.
As soon as they have a chance to, how quickly one clutches at those safety blankets. Don't call it a safety blanket, because then it'll be that Matthew has safety blankets and we just can't handle that right now. We're not ready to talk about that.
We're not ready at that point.
We're dressed. Good job.
We are.
We
actually, just because I love you all and I'm absolutely thrilled when you guys go extra like you just did, if you have a stability to recover it. Because the rituals of self-care are not to be ignored.
That's true.
Okay.
And also, all of you guys, like your siblings, you've grown up together. You guys have gotten dressed together or near each other, or at least in synchronicity, for decades.
It's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing that makes it feel a little bit more like home, and also like when things were simpler, I think.
Yeah. Well, you've been here a week, so as breakfast is ordered and it gets here and we get ready for the day, tell me, what have you done to this hotel suite to make it feel like home? Have we done anything yet? Or are we still kind of holding ourselves kind of in a Matrix-style white room, expecting to leave at any moment? Where are we on that scale?
I'm trying to think. I feel like we've set up either Clara's or Matthew's room has been set up as just like a workspace or like a clothing space or something like that, because Clara and Matthew have been sleeping in the same room, but they have to, for obvious reasons, not be sleeping in the same room officially. And I like the idea that like they kind of made that like one of the rooms kind of into like a little sort of like just a space to kind of use in a almost like an office way. Like it's a place where like Clara can go and like look over the various things that she's gotten for like her like the connections with the actors and stuff like that she's been looking at, or that Matthew can go and take calls, so many calls with like the people back home, and you know that Bethany can research distressing things.
Well, that's the interesting thing, thinking about a workspace room, which Clara, if she's setting up the show, will need. If Bethany, I'm curious if Bethany is comfortable doing research there, because it almost sounds like a room dedicated to the illusion.
That is true. She like doesn't step like foot in that room.
No, that's no, because
I
like
love that.
also the only time that she's done like research so far in the hotel room has been essentially at the breakfast table, because that had been sort of our previous like working space, and that was just so everybody can see what was happening. No, Bethany does not work on real things in places that are dedicated to the illusion. Thank you.
I'm curious what Bethany has done to the rooms.
Bethany immediately unpacked all of her stuff, whatever they had brought, because Bethany doesn't travel. Bethany doesn't live out of suitcases. So she immediately moved in, essentially, and the room has been her room. Like, everything has been unpacked. Whatever suitcase is either stashed in the closet or under the bed. Like, she's never traveled across the country before. She's never done those things. So she hasn't been like, oh, I'm just here for a weekend. It's not worth unpacking. It's not worth it. I'll just leave it in the suitcase, or we'll hang up and I'll steam this as I need it, or have someone do this laundry. I don't need to like fully live here. So she just showed up and was like, well, all the things get put away. And since someone doesn't seem to have done it, I guess I will be putting away my things.
Do you, Bethany, remember leaving your pre-Van Horst home?
Bethany arrived at the Van Horst home when the oldest we decided she could be was 2.
Right.
Like,
yes.
There was a long period of time. There was about at least 5 years where it was only Clara and Bethany on the date. So no, she doesn't. She remembers the Van Horst home. She's been taken out on day trips. She's been taken out, like if the whole family went out somewhere together when they were younger, brought servants, brought people, they unpacked our stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a thing that happens. So she's never traveled on her own without essentially an entourage of people to take care of her or those things.
Yeah. Okay. So this is almost the smallest support structure that Bethany's had.
It absolutely is, yeah.
Does that feel good or bad?
It depends. It feels good when Bethany is allowed to be a competent person. Like, when they all do things together and it works and everybody sort of gets stuff done, it feels good. Or when she's needed for something, it feels good. When Clara and Matthew dive face first into gathering power in this world, it feels bad.
Okay. Feels bad, bro.
Aw.
Sometimes Bethany makes me sad. Not
She understands kind of why they're doing it, but she's also very concerned that her siblings will be seduced by the illusion and want the power and the money and stay here. And she desperately wants to leave because this is not a place where she can be powerful. And this is not a place where she can be what she is supposed to be. And she knows that she can't stay if she wants to be a person.
Yeah.
She's waiting because she thinks that they're right and she wants them all to go together. And she's very, very, very afraid that she will have to go by herself.
Well, now I'm afraid of that too. I love you, Bethany.
Well, it almost sounds like Bethany had better start taking some steps to crack some of these chains.
Yep.
Yee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the first time that's floated through her brain. Okay. Well, on that super bright note, breakfast?
Breakfast.
Mostly liquid, somewhat solid. Some eggs, some bacon, toast, granola, fruit, is this the era of the grapefruit diet? Is this when Clara gets one half of a grapefruit?
It might be a little early, but narrative versus totally. We're in a world of illusion. It's really close to that. So that's probably where Clara is. She's had her whiskey and her coffee and her heroin, and is just eating a little bit to make certain she's ready for the stage, and is otherwise like the little place that Clara has made in the room that is her home, because I just made it to get ready in character, is this lovely vanity. I'm going to show it off. Like, it's drugs, cards, makeup, and jewelry. And it's the things that she needs every morning. And like a spoiled rich child, she pulls out all of her jewels and her rhinestones and her diamonds and her pearls and tries on 5 of them and then leaves the other 4 on her little vanity. And so a weekend, it's a mess full of vice and jewels. And she's pretty much over there debating, painting her nails, eating a grapefruit, and drinking more spiked coffee.
I actually found a set of bicycle cards so that I have a in-universe fidget toy.
Great.
And also, so whenever we start doing casino shenanigans, I can. I've got something to work with here. Okay, so breakfast is had. Bethany, do we eat?
That depends on whether or not this vast array of breakfast things involved mushrooms showing up.
Ooh.
Like if sauteed mushrooms or some sort of like in a full breakfast thing showed up, the answer is no, she does not.
No, but thank you for reminding me, because I'll make that worse later. There is a sense of weight around Bethany. Not that Bethany herself is heavy, but it almost feels like someone has draped a weighted blanket over her shoulders. It's not low energy. It's that you have a normal amount of energy, but the gravity is increased. And you are inclined to respond sharply. There's maybe it's how you slept, maybe it's something that you're feeling, but there's something prickly about you, and it's either in or out. And Bethany, you are not entirely certain what it's going to do to your insides if you keep it in. So breakfast, it goes down for the most part. So that's done. It's been a little bit. Do you want to do anything before you check in on Mr. Hawthorne? Are there any other contacts or behaviors or actions that you'd like to take?
I think that I don't have any.
Okay. Bethany, you went to a really bad place in the truth or next to the illusion, or you went to a bad place that was very magically, spiritually, eschatologically powerful.
Yeah.
Do you think at this point that Bethany has developed any form of ritual, either capital R or lowercase r, as a defense mechanism?
I think that she has some like lowercase r rituals. I don't think that she has capital R rituals. Partially because she did spend a lot of time in the between times trying to like look at Dad's capital R rituals and like the whole Phoenix Society's capital R rituals, and they don't seem to have like stuck for her very well as the way that she accesses magic.
They were all very heavily religious. There was a lot of invoking of terrible powers, and all you hate pretty much every terrible power they invoked.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, you can't Mad Libs things like that. You can't just, say, I call the West Wind in the name of Joe fucking DiMaggio and hope that it works.
Yeah. So I think that she's developed personal, like, lowercase r rituals. I think one of them is actually the shower, like having come back and just trying to like wash all of what felt like the tactile spores of the place growing into her skin off.
Okay.
So gently a little too much scrubbing on that front.
Okay.
Yeah.
A physical ritual cleansing.
Physical ritual cleansing. I think that is a thing that happens. She also did that probably with less thinking after the graveyard night, because we all ended up vaguely covered in viscera.
Yes.
So there was definitely a shower then. And so I just feel like she has, yes, that if she feels like something has attached itself to her psyche to or try to worm its way into her like aura in a way that she does not want that to manifest, she has a ritual cleansing about it.
Okay. This actually reminds you of something from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
This experience this time. Now, as the Van Horst, Melis Van Horst, the father, and now Matthew Van Horst, owns a couple of the beachheads of Inferno called steel mills. These terrible, black, dirty, nasty places full of oil, grease, molten metal, and the suffering of men. Well-paid men. I mean, it's half the houses in Pittsburgh were paid for with U.S. steel money, but it was also paid for with blood. And so, of course, you have all, Matthew's done this many more times than the sisters, but you have all gone on a handful of tours through these places. I imagine that these steel mills were a sensory nightmare. There was a lot visually, auditory, olfactorily going on in them. But the thing that comes to mind right now for Bethany is one of her earliest visions. Actually, one of her first kind of like major schizophrenic episodes outside of the home was that you guys were the family was coming out, and it was essentially what Papa Mal was trying to do was to teach you guys where the money comes from. And he was a old school man, and so he walked you through the process. And it was very cool, and in different circumstances it would have been enjoyable, but towards the beginning of the trip, you were in the coal area, and steel requires a lot of coke, which is coal that's been burned off into almost pure carbon. It requires some limestone. It requires some ore, which is the word. And when you guys were in the beginning of this area, there's a lot of fire, so there's a lot of soot. There's a lot of all of that powdery, gross stuff. And you distinctly remember this man, rolled up work sleeves, and blowing his nose. If you've ever seen someone blow their nose like coal breaker style, where they put their thumb on one side of their nose and blow, and just all of that, just absolutely appetizing junk. Since we just had breakfast, and there was a memory of this guy coming out and blowing his nose that way, and he didn't see anyone. Like, he just essentially came around the corner of the building and blew his nose and went back to work. Something that probably happened 100 times a day there. But Bethany, what you remember as he did this, and there was this wad of mostly black mucus there, you remember distinctly it filming over like clotting blood, and something with a lot of tiny little, not insect fingers, but actually like 6-jointed little like lemur, squirrel, tiny little rodent arms reaching up out, and it's like this big. So this thing's teeny tiny, and you shouldn't have been able to see it with the clarity that's still burned into your mind this day, but you can. And you just remember the beginning of something pulling itself out of that chunk of filth. And it was definitely one of those moments where you knew for a fucking fact that guy did not blow some sort of placental tumor out of his sinuses. But damn if it wasn't a compelling argument. Yeah, placental tumor is the word of the day. Whenever you hear someone say placental tumor, scream. And you remember it, and it was one of those moments that it was a dissonant moment, because Bethany looked at that and said, "This isn't real. I know this isn't real. There is, like, I just know, but fuck it, it's there, and I am going to suddenly be super interested in what Daddy's saying, because if I am, I will be first in the door and putting a steel door between me and that fucking thing." And you two probably remember this day, but not for the same reasons. You have probably only gone on a full family tour, maybe 3 or 4 times through the mills. But I'm sure it's a memory because it was one of the few times that Matthew felt jealous of Bethany. Because there was that moment where Bethany's like, "Daddy, show me what's next." Because it's a survival tactic. Because she goes, "I know how to get Papa Mal to accelerate this tour away from the terror." But because she was so interested, and because Papa Mal was a doting father, he was like, "Oh, of course," and like gave her double the attention for about half of the trip.
Especially since it wasn't the norm, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is business time, is Dad and Matthew time. These were the father-son times, and for Bethany to air quote intrude on those times was just simply it was terrible. You've probably gotten over it by now, I'm sure, right? Yeah. We're healthy.
Fine. We're very healthy.
And the reason I bring this up, the reason we had this brief flashback, is because that's how you blew your nose, Bethany. Because as uncomfortable as it is, and how very kind of off character it is, there is no better way to be absolutely certain that there is nothing in your sinuses than stick your thumb over here and run your whole fucking lung volume through each nostril. And so it works. And you don't look down. You finish an entire shower without looking down now, because if you are in this shower and something starts moving, it is going to be a whole ass problem.
Also, don't want to see what color came out of my face.
Oh, valid.
Really don't need to know. Like,
nope.
Yeah. No. I need to know what color that was.
Bethany is not a look in the Kleenex kind of person. That is not her style. So, trauma a go-go. Now that I've made everything worse, are we now ready to check on Mr. Hawthorne, or is there anything else that we want to do beforehand?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's a knock on you knock on the door. And there's a conversation. So you hear a little bit of And the door opens, and it is Matthew. It is presumably the tailor, who is, I mean, he's the incarnation of a tailor. He's impeccably dressed. He's got the shirt sleeves rolled up. He's got the various cute little tools of the trade, and I'm sure at least one of you can tell me better than I ever can what the fuck is in a tailor's coat pocket. But he has all of the pins and measuring apparatus and everything else that one might need to use. There are some cloth swatches available for making some choices. It's all of the things that a tailor would need to gin up a suit or two.
Okay.
And Mr. Hawthorne is sitting in a chair. So he's kind of now he's not sitting on the bed, and this is not a lounging chair. This is a sit up straight, good posture chair. And he is sitting in it, and he has the look of someone who is tired, but knows how to stretch his energy. You know, so it's clear that he's sitting down right now, but also you can tell if you kind of look at his situation, he could very easily stand up from that chair and put his hand on the chair and perform most if not all of the acrobatics necessary for being measured for a suit. With an extra kind of, with some standing assistance.
How far in does it seem like they are? Like, did we get here at the beginning of their sort of session, or did we get here middle or the end?
It looks like they've had a lot of the what are you looking for conversations. Mm-hmm. Because it's clear that there's some swatches that have been put away. There are some cloth options that have already been picked through. There's about 5 different sets now, some overlaps and some things like that are there, and they're definitely in the measurement taking portion. But it looks like they're probably about halfway through. Okay.
Because there are obviously things that I don't want to talk about while someone else is here.
Yes. But we can easily say that, y'all make small talk until the tailor is done. So
that's what I was going to suggest, is basically that we ease in with some small talk.
Yes. The look that he gives the three of you is very. Now Mr. Hawthorne is a black man somewhere in his 50s or 60s, best guess, certainly on the back end of middle age. And now that he has slept not in a hospital bed and taken a proper shower, his face is clearly shaved smooth. He has tended to his hair as best as one can. He needs a haircut, but that's a solvable problem later in the day. That he has tended to his hair, he has tended to himself. He looks a lot better. His color looks healthier, and you can absolutely see that there is not a literal fire. He doesn't have glowing eyes, but there is a fire of life in his eyes, and he is tired. He is hurting. He is a man in pain, but he has been reminded that he is a man, that he is a thinking creature, and that has already done him a world of good. So he
okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of healing. He could honestly probably go to one of those California convalescence places for 6 months and drink the spring water and get good sunlight and go play badminton or whatever it is they do in those places, and it would do him a world of good.
Okay.
But he greets you. He says hello. He reintroduces himself. He says, "I know that I've met one of you before, but I haven't met these two lovely ladies." He's very polite. He's very kind. He does not seem to have any accent that one would instinctually presume. There is no southern twang. There is no indication. He is not a cartoon. He is a educated, well-spoken black man. And so, which is one of the reasons why I'm not going to give him an accent.
Mm-hmm.
And so he seems robust, or he was robust. He is returning to robustness. He greets you. He greets the ladies. He is extremely polite. He is extremely courteous. He does, when you come in, he stands up and he comes over, and it is clear, Matthew, that he is going to walk across this fucking room and shake your fucking hand or die in the attempt. And so he comes over and he shakes your hand with a weakness that is really more of a forgotten firmness, and you can feel in his hand the recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can say, okay, this is a man who's used to having strong hands, and so he is. But he greets you. He greets the girls, exchanges names. You know, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. You saw it. It was a terrible place, and you know. He kind of says sort of like, I'm trying to put it all behind me, but also like wiggles his head towards the tailor, because I mean, clearly Alex Hawthorne has some pride.
Yeah.
And he is not going to say anything that would make anyone think he's crazy.
Yep.
Here now.
Clara waltzes in and, seeing that pride and everything, offers her hand and goes, I'm Clara. It's lovely to properly meet you in the morning. I'm exhausted. I'm going to sit down, and I hope we can all relax because it was entirely too late a night last night. And she takes the first step in like sitting and flopping a little bit. She's also still high.
Oh, yeah.
Tired, but is trying to lead the way into we don't have to put on a show. I'll go first. She wants to put him at ease and is doing that Clara projection of charisma of, this is fine, we're all tired, we don't have to stand on airs, we're clearly all friends here.
Yeah. Bethany, every time this guy uses one of his... no, he's not using needles yet because we're not there. He still has to cut everything and fit it. So this is before there. But there's something unhealthy about this man being fitted for a suit. It's you're not sure yet, but you're already, there's something about this guy, about Mr. Hawthorne, that's giving you ungood vibes. You can't tell if you're seeing something informative, or it's just simply your broken brain whispering trauma in your ear, but there's a bad vibe here. However, he absolutely recognizes what Clara does and takes his seat, and giving her a gracious smile and a nod, that kind of like, yes, I get it. Yes, thank you. And the tailor is a good one. Clearly, this is not the first person who's had some mobility issues that this man has measured. And so his skill set does include doing a lot of these measurements from a seated position, all of them that he reasonably can. So
Matthew will also take a seat. He'll sit between on a seat area that's between Mr. Hawthorne and Clara, likely close to Clara. And we'll make small talk. We'll distract from the situation, essentially, and we'll make it very clear with his small talk that we're sticking to small talk right now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
While we're in small talk land, sorry to interrupt.
No, go.
Preface a little trigger warning that it is 1957. We are a rich white family. We are talking to a well-off, well-spoken black gentleman, but this might be the point where we hit some racism.
Yeah.
It might. I know that we have played other games where we can step into that sphere, and we acknowledge that there's a lot of really awful history, and nowadays the U.S. is built on white supremacy. That is a part of everything that is a part of our world, which is really sad, and the way that we interact with Mr. Hawthorne might reflect those. That's not what this game is about, but it still might bring up some of those things historically, so I wanted to warn people before we dove into the not small talk that we acknowledge that this is a part of American history and a part of our game setting, and we don't believe in it, but it might come up even in probably just microaggressions. because the Van Horsts are very polite and they want things out of him, but there might be microaggressions.
Yeah.
Just
And
put that
remember,
out there.
the Van Horsts are a negative gauge. If you're acting like the Van Horsts, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I also just want to mention, because we mentioned this when we first were dealing with Mr. Hawthorne, but we had not mentioned it this episode. We have all calibrated and agreed with each other, like out of character, that we will not be using any kinds of slurs that are currently used today.
Yeah.
It is not something that any of us feel comfortable with doing, and that is not something that you as viewers need to worry about us doing.
So yeah, just wanted to touch on that, and then we go back to the slightly uncomfortable small talk.
Yes.
Yeah. And without calling them out, I think that we can all comfortably agree that I'm sure that there were some in the small talk, some inappropriate but traditional, stupid or hurtful things that were said. There was, and also, I don't know what I was going to say, but I think we've covered what we need to cover. So, the tailor's going to finish up. It's 9:15, so that we don't kind of interrupt where we're going to end up, which is a big, long, informative conversation. We're going to take a quick 5, and it is going to be 5. So at 9:20, at least by my computer, we will be back, and we will finish the small talk. The tailor will pack up and clean up, and we will finally, after, oh my God, what is it, 2 months, find out why the hell Alex Hawthorne was trapped in the guts of a oracular fungal temple, dressed like a hospital. So,
Cool.
see you in a
All right.
now one. I still want like that Place of Wrath and Tears as a t-shirt. That's just, I love the art. So one real quick aside before we get into having the crazy, weird, scary, spooky conversation. In 1957, the Nevada legislature failed to pass a civil rights bill in Nevada. And we're still, yes, only in 1955 did the hotel casinos allow African American entertainers to stay at the hotels where they perform. So, that's as far as we're going to get into it. But yeah, there are some not just moral, but there are logistical concerns for dealing with Mr. Hawthorne, and that's going to be something that we at least touch on briefly. But right now, I think that the tailor packs his things, and gets ready to leave. And it is probably, Matthew, if you want everything, with kind of, we had a brief like recalibration, let's look at where we're at moment. So it's definitely going to cost you not a life-changing amount of money for Van Horsts, but it is going to thin your pocketbook a little bit to keep this, to ensure the tailor's discretion.
I will tip him generously with that sort of understanding. And as I do so, thank him, of course, for his discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he knows this is going to be temporary. Like Matthew knows that.
Yeah.
Which, because Matthew is terrible, doesn't necessarily bother him, but is going to be something that he's going to need to talk about.
Yeah.
So he will, after seeing the tailor out, sit back down. Does Bethany sit down, or is she staying standing?
No, she'll sit, but she will sit closest to the door, furthest away.
Okay. Now that the tailor is gone, before we get into things, I'd actually like to do, I'm trying to remember what it's called, magical intuition.
Sure. Yeah.
Regarding Mr. Hawthorne.
Yeah, fuck yeah, let's get spooky. It's time.
It's a little spooky. Especially because he may have like this oracular stuff going on.
why the hell was he there, and why the hell was he separate from everybody else? Is a real question.
Yeah. So I just rolled a 15, and then plus 2 is 17, which doesn't actually change anything. But so I'm going to ask a couple questions.
Go for it, brah.
Specifically, I want to know, get an insight into the nature of this creature is kind of like one of the most important ones for him.
Okay.
Because that's a specific one to this. There's no object on Mr. Hawthorne, so I'm going to put the like, if something is magical in my back pocket, I guess.
Yeah, you can save one till later in the scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Hawthorne is a human, but he is absolutely... He's charged. He's definitely got something going on. He isn't a creature. Like, there isn't, like, you don't peel away layers of reality around him to reveal his true self, like you did to Sophia and Jacob in the office so many years ago. But there he is, definitely. Maybe it's just the vibe of Saint Dimphna's that's still on him, or maybe it's something inherent to him, but he has definitely a magical energy about him.
All right. Matthew will kind of bring his hands together and say, so now that we're more private, we of course can provide you with some medical services to make sure that you can continue to heal and recover. Those, of course, will have been vetted thoroughly so that they don't... Obviously, I understand if you have some issues with medical procedures at this time, this would be only people who would make sure that your healing would continue. There would be nothing done to you.
He laughs, and that is the laugh that he gives is such a rueful, bitter laugh. Like you can just hear, not deprecating, but adjacent to it. And he says, "Well, I simply have to tell you that I'm just going to bring a gun with me every time I go to the doctor. Forever."
I would say that you would probably not be the first person who has done so with the doctor that we're getting for you.
Are you going to tell him that he's a mob doctor? Because you just, I mean, the concern on his face.
There's going to be this is the fact that he is able to get a very good doctor for this guy is like, he's not going to hide that it's something that is more underworld, because the situation is the person is not going to seem like he's not going to seem like the kind of doctor that we're going to necessarily get just from money, especially in this situation.
Okay. He kind of he gets a look on his face a little bit, and yes, he definitely he says okay. He agrees. He also says that he uses the words that I'm not. He says, but if he calls me any of these racial slurs, I'm going to use the gun.
I'll make sure he knows that.
Okay.
Mr. Hawthorne, considering the town that we were in, our place there, and the color of your skin, and what happened to you, the ability to hire somebody with the highest amount of discretion and respect for the situation to keep their lips shut is not actually that hard. They just have relations to other parts of the city that might be less than savory. We are just making certain that you are getting the best of care and that we can help provide it, considering everything that happened. I know it might be a little off, but none of us are in the position that we want to be. in this life, I think.
He absorbs that with practiced false ease.
Mm-hmm.
And he nods. He's clearly holding on to he's clearly holding on to at least some kind of anger, but frankly, I mean, even just looking at the past 24 hours of his life, the past decade of his life, he's got a lot to be upset about, not even considering the first several decades of his life. So it seems generally reasonable, and it seems like there is a mental effort as he tries to kind of just put aside that, because it almost, there is, you can see it. And probably, Bethany, you can see it in the colors around him. The moment where he really is reminded on a very deep and fundamental level at the bullshit he's going to have to start dealing with again. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But his aura is throwing shadows. You may want to roll 6 sense.
Yeah.
To make some sense out of that. But he is. This is what you saw too, Matthew. He is a human, but he is so packed full of some kind of energy that it's, you know, he's almost kind of giving you the synesthesia equivalent of like a theremin noise, but on your skin. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Hold on. So, yes, things that Bethany has that could be helpful are, I have 6 sense, which I should have rolled anyway, which is what I rolled. So that was a 14. So guess really that one is sense whether someone wishes you good or ill, which he does either, like wishes us either of those things.
He doesn't really wish anyone ill. But he's not. There's a lot of, like, I don't want to say dangerous energy, but he's ready to go. You know, he doesn't know you. You have a lot of power over him right now, which is not a place that he likes to be.
Oh yeah, no, I can't imagine he wishes us particularly well. He might wish us gone.
Yeah, it's less like he's giving you a danger sense, and more giving you a, like, he would actually not particularly mind if you just handed him a life-changing sum of cash and bought him a plane ticket to wherever he asked. You know, it would almost just be like, thank you very much for getting me. I appreciate it. I will feed and clothe your children. I will hide you if the cops come to my door. I will vouch for you in the one time in my life that I would ever have to vouch for someone like you. But if you gave me $10,000-$15,000 in small bills and a plane ticket to anywhere I wanted to go in the continental US, I'd also be super happy. You know,
we don't get everything we want.
We don't get everything we want.
But Bethany's going to ask the probably more uncomfortable to her siblings question, which is, Mr. Hawthorne, do you have any family? Is there someone we should reach out to who's been missing you?
He absolutely blatantly bald-faced lies and says no.
No.
It's everyone in the room knows it's a lie, but it's also he is controlling that information. So
Clara's going to stand up, and because she's not very mystical, she's going to set the scene to make them as comfortable as possible with a lot of booze. She's pouring everybody a drink, lighting cigarettes around, trying to make this easy, free-flowing business conversation. She is doing her best to treat him as an equal. He gets as much whiskey as everybody else does.
Okay.
But also trying to lubricate the conversation a bit and have excuse to drink and smoke more herself.
Yes. He accepts a drink, but he is going to nurse one drink.
Mm-hmm.
This entire time. He is not comfortable enough to get intoxicated, and two, he even says it. He admits it. He says, "I haven't touched a drop of booze in however long. 10 years? My God, is it 1957?"
It is.
And he gets a far away. He gets the trauma stare for a couple of minutes, as just the idea that 10 years has been absolutely stolen from him. That it's sinking in. It's clear that you probably have maybe a day or maybe a half of a week before everything really comes crashing down for Mr. Hawthorne, and he is going to be dealing with PTSD in a culture, environment, and location that is not equipped to help anyone with PTSD, let alone a black man. So
Clara offers cigarettes into that. Like, it's a grounding as anything else. She sees his eyes go, and she goes, "You want a light?"
Sure. It's yes. He takes a cigarette and he lights it. And Bethany, there is a moment of horrible synchronicity between Hawthorne and Clara when they actually both essentially match each other on the drag. And on the exhale, they both exhale. The cloud is kind of mushroomy. It's like that little, the mushroom that kind of curves up off the side with a tiny little stem. And it's so cute. And there's like a little fairy under it. Yeah. It's that kind of shape. And it's a normal shape for smoke to be. But but the smoke is going to settle in this room like spores.
There is. So Bethany puts out her own cigarette. She's not going to smoke now. Yeah.
So as we get into the conversation, the first thing that Mr. Hawthorne is actually going to want to ask is essentially he is going to say, was that real? Was that real? Was I on drugs? Did they keep me on narcotics? Were they make it like was I high? Was I in a coma? Was that all some terrible nightmare? Did I get hit in the head? Like he says, I looked at myself in the mirror. I shaved this morning. I didn't see really any stitches on my head or scars or anything else like that. But was that real? Right now, you could say no. You could put a cap on this man's awakening. You could say no, and you could tend to him physically, and you could let him go back into the world and let him try to push everything back down into some nightmare realm. But that will be the end of his utility.
Yes. It was. I'm sorry to say.
And he takes a solid 10 minutes to process that. You know, this is longer. This is a longer conversation. There's a lot of the things were real, the people were real, everything, and it's somebody is going to actually have to roll probably we're going to roll keep it together. But what you're going to do is, instead of rolling willpower, I want one of you to roll charisma.
I was gonna try to roll influence other.
Sure. Let's roll influence other. But what we're going to do is, because you're not trying to get something specific out of him right now, but you're kind of trying to guide him through the trauma of recognizing that the drooling bestial creatures that are going to haunt his dreams for the rest of his life are actually there.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're going to see if he keeps it together, but you're going to roll influence other.
I'm going to roll the helping others to give you the bonus.
Absolutely, go for it. Yeah.
That is a 14 plus. Does helping others get a bonus?
What you do is you use the same attribute as their roll. So this is influence other, so it's plus charisma.
Oh, okay. Then that is a 14 plus a 3. So
okay, then
A plus. So that's plus 2.
Yeah, and I rolled a 14. So
all right.
And I have a 30 in charisma. So we are.
Yeah, we're solid.
I feel like this 10 minutes is Clara and Matthew very gently tag teaming him. And if Bethany wants to come in, but it's an illusion tag team.
Mhm.
It's do you want another cigarette? Do you want more to drink? How about more food? Let's talk about something that is real that isn't that. But it is real. There are people who understand how to navigate it, and we are those people. We are here to help you, but we're just being very gentle and giving him, at least Clara's giving him human comforts and respect and space to process quietly.
I think that if it's a tag team, I think that Clara is giving him like the illusion comforts, and Matthew is kind of coaxing the like understanding that it was real, and the fact that like this is something that is real and was terrible, but now that you know of it, like you can understand maybe what happened to you in a way that you wouldn't have before. Like there's an aspect to you were not crazy, I think, that is also like helpful.
Yeah. It's just a bad time.
Oh yeah.
Bethany's just watching the shadows, like his aura, his whatever, all of the colors and the things that seem not quite right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes a little bit, and Bethany, you absolutely notice it before your other two siblings. I'm actually going to say that you notice it and they don't so far.
Mm-hmm.
He is answering questions before they're done being asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's extremely subtle because he is a very polite gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
So they start asking questions and he is nodding or shaking his head or generally using a non-invasive body language to begin his response, but it's early. So instead of going, do you think, question, it's when they get to do you think before the actual meat of the question, he's already nodding his head or shaking his head or kind of doing the like, that answer is complicated. His, whatever his answering body language is early.
Yeah.
And it's subtle.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what do you tell him? Like, what's the brief on this? Do you say that like what passes for God locked humankind in a terrible cage and, we're stuck here? Or is this just like reality is weird, complex, and layered, and most of it is awful, and I'm really sorry that you fell into a cesspit?
Actually, Clara starts with when Matthew is touches on it's easier to know that you weren't crazy. She looks over to Bethany and goes, actually, our sister A lot of people told her she was crazy for a really long time, and she's understood it far longer than we have. At least that's how I feel about you, Bethany. And I'm sorry that we told you you were crazy for a really long time.
That was kind of a sideline, a side swipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew like has this moment of just like
You are not alone in having experienced awful things. That's all I'm saying. And that was to Hawthorne, not to Bethany.
Yeah.
um
Bethany, how about you roll to keep it together?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. I rolled a 10. So we'll be somewhere in the middle. Let me just check. Keep it together is plus willpower, which is plus 2, which is 12, but I am at -1, so that's 11. So we're still
yay.
there. Still there.
Okay. So with an 11, you get a condition, which remains with you, and you have had time to recuperate. I feel like angry.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like angry is an easy go-to for that. So
Yeah.
your fucking sister
Yeah.
on heroin.
Told this stranger.
One, told a stranger that you were crazy your whole life,
Yep.
and then fucking apologized.
Mhm.
Like it was like, oops, sorry for bumping your elbow at the dinner table and making you drop your fork.
Mhm.
And it's like,
Yeah. Mhm. Everything's already prickly.
yeah,
Everything's.
and it just reinforces everything you already knew.
Mhm.
Really, this isn't new information.
So Matthew's gonna just
Oh
no.
no, I'm still here.
Okay. Matthew's
I jiggled the
gonna
handle.
really quickly segue from that statement into something else.
Okay.
Like he is someone who is generally cool enough, like has enough cool to be able to like not actively flinch when like Clara says that, but like his sisters know him well enough that like there's that moment where like there's that tenseness around the eyes where he's just like, oh no, that was the thing that happened, but I can't show it because I need to focus on this. But
Yeah,
it's
they haven't
clear
been-
that like there's a moment where he's like, and now we're talking about something completely different over here.
Yeah, they haven't invented the oof meme for about 56, 57 years yet. Yeah.
Matthew actually invented that meme. He's the one who did
Right
it.
now,
It happened
just
right
now.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he quickly like moves on to like a thing of basically like, talking about, there's the good thing is that, once you're able to better come to grips with all of this and have people who can help you through that, you can move forward with your life. And I know that's something you want to do.
Bethany, there is a distinct sense or sixth sense that what Mr. Hawthorne wants to do is punch Matthew.
Mhm.
Oh, that's valid.
But it is an intent that never makes it into actualization.
Mhm.
But the thing that's very interesting is for a couple of nanoseconds, for one of these tiny little slivers of time, his aura scintillates and turns into a fractal.
Mhm.
It layers upon itself, and it's incredible. It's kaleidoscopic. It's hallucinogenic, and it's like there's thousands of his auras around and then they collapse again. And Matthew, there's definitely something that just happened, but you are probably perceiving it as what?
I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, am I able to tell that he got really pissed at what I just said?
Really pissed? No. I mean, definitely you got a fundamental reaction out of him because you could see that there was kind of some action spiritually, that the magic that he's kind of packed with kind of seemed to go blurp for a few seconds, but in terms of understanding the complexity of what just happened.
I mean less that, not the complexity, but more like in a reading a person sort of way. Like his emotional state is what I'm curious about, the mundane aspect of it.
You are absolutely aware that he is angry about something. He is angry about a lot of things. But his experience, I mean, just like talking to the player more than the character at this moment.
Yeah.
It is impossible for my wasp ass to correctly enumerate all of the ways that Mr. Hawthorne's existence has been so profoundly different from Matthew's.
Oh, hugely. And that's super valid.
And so, yes, he is upset with things. And he is working through a lot of things, both emotionally and spiritually, and he is dealing with the fact that essentially someone said in Twitch chat, absolutely right. He is gaining his awakened archetype right now.
Yeah, no,
like right now, he is. If he is a PC, he would be making his character sheet. And so he is going through that terrible traumatic process, and he is also dealing with people who may as well come from a fucking Buck Rogers movie.
Oh,
in terms of experience.
I mean,
similarity.
This is a rich white man is telling him, "Oh, you can move on with your life. Like after you've lost everything. Like I'm sure you can just build yourself right back up." Like that I understand. Like it's like
hard work and entrepreneurial spirit.
It'll work out. I'm sure. Capitalism's where you go. Like no. Like my sort of thing is mostly like knowing when to back off, even if he doesn't understand why. Is sort of my question.
It's you can tell that a lot of his emotional turmoil is kind of coalescing into stuff on the anger side.
Okay.
But I mean, you also just hit him with a lot. And he's dealing with a lot. And so it would probably, and Matthew, bless his heart, isn't really big on empathy. Like actual empathy? No. Like, amoral serial killer style rapport, but it's empathy, not so much.
In the vein of amoral serial killer style rapport, he is going to give him some space because that is the most beneficial thing to do right now.
Yeah,
and like light himself another cigarette.
Well, yes. So we have tried to guide him through a little bit of the awakening process. And that's up to you guys to decide how much of your characters understand that this is very similar to the traumas that you experienced. You saw terrible things. For most of you, it was the oldest crematory in the United States exploding while your father was in it and terrible fiery claws dragging his visible soul to hell. But this is his fiery claws. This is his crematory explosion. And he is now dealing with that, but he is not at home.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a well-stocked pantry to return to. He does not have all of those things that you guys had. So, but what do you have a goal for this conversation aside from kind of just try to guide him through this experience?
Matthew's goal is that he wants to be able to use him eventually. Whatever he has learned or whatever energy is in him, Matthew wants to be able to have him feel indebted enough that he would agree to help him. That's why he's not. Yeah, no, it's really gross. Like everybody, please don't be Matthew. He's horrible. But like, especially after he got the reaction from him of like, oh, I don't want you to just give me things. Like, I don't like charity. That's fine. None of this is charity then.
Transaction it is.
If that's what would make you comfortable, of course.
Okay. You know what? Let's just roll influence other.
Okay.
And just to get a sense of how this conversation goes. I think you've got at least one advantage that might play into this.
Yeah, I don't deserve this role. Sorry.
No, you
Matthew's
deserve the role. Matthew deserves nothing.
Matthew deserves nothing. That was actually a really good roll. So that was a 7 and a 4. So that was 11 plus charisma equals 14.
All right. I'm going to bring that up to a 15.
Okay.
Just because I feel like it's gross. We all know it's gross, but you are in a position of significant power. You have a lot of leverage. You have your sisters as support. I'm sure that, in this entire process, they have supported this conversation. Whether they feel good about it or not, I leave it up to them. But I can say that somewhere in the process, we found a +1 modifier to this.
Yeah.
And so, yes, at the end of this conversation, he is going to do what you ask. But it doesn't feel good. It's absolutely one of the grossest conversations that Matthew has had in a while, at least to the player. Matthew's probably like, okay, fine.
Matthew's like, this makes sense. I am like, ow, it hurts my soul.
Yeah.
But Matthew's a horrible person, and we all understand that. Especially me. His basic goals, obviously saying this over the course of a much longer period and stuff like that, but what you can gain basically power from this trauma, not powers, but because he's not going to just throw that out there, but he knows that there's a magical energy in this guy, and he is going to basically dance around the point, because you don't just walk over and say there's magical energy in you should use it for me, cool.
Wow.
But that's essentially what he's trying to do over the course of what is probably quite a long conversation, is to talk to him about trying to make something out of this, that he wants to help him, and that he understands that he doesn't want charity, that they have been very badly hurt by bad people as well, which once again, our situation is not his situation, and it is gross that he is comparing the two, but the sort of thing of trying to create, if not a sense of empathy between the two of them, because I don't think that that's really possible with how their situation is set up, a sense of a feeling of obligation and debt at least once.
Yeah. You think that you can, it's not going to be today. It's probably best if the Van Horsts left him alone for a while to recuperate and, to deal with emotionally everything. But you think you can get one really uncomfortable thing out of him. You think that you could probably wring something spooky.
Okay.
You could try to talk him, Bethany could try to talk him into using whatever magic is in him or around him or stuck on him, or you could try to do something, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that Matthew definitely would agree that we need to wait on him, and two, would want to talk to Bethany. Matthew wants to talk to Bethany anyway to do some other stuff, but also would want Bethany to be the one who would lead on point on that. She's the one who understands things like this in a way that he doesn't, and that Clara doesn't. So he'd want to touch base with her anyway about being the person to talk to him. But that is a conversation that needs to have another conversation first.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
All right. So do we feel that, in the abstract, that we've gotten what we need to out of Mr. Hawthorne for the first conversation? Or do we want to do something else? I know that we really abstracted this conversation a little bit more than we normally do, but that's also kind of trying to respect the fact that none of us are really going to accurately
Right. Yeah.
model his core experiences enough to simulate a good conversation.
Clara feels like she did socially. She's still curious about Bethany because she's missed the mark there and thinks Bethany and he should bond. Clara's still kind of high.
They didn't bond.
No.
There was no bonding. There was no adhesion. Okay, so we had a functional conversation, but I think it is one that has left a majority of the Van Horsts not feeling particularly great.
Matthew feels great.
Matthew feels great. Matthew's got someone that owes him a favor. Like, what's better than power over other people?
He's just worried about Bethany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you want to go back to the hotel room? It's arguably lunchtime. Do you want to go have lunch? Do you want to go throw craps?
I think that Matthew wants to go back to the hotel room for a bit because I think he wants to talk to Bethany a bit, but I don't want to split the party in a way that would not have people getting to interact. So that
No, it's fine. Clara is on a Vice binge right now. She would like to go drinking and play some cards, so I'm happy to duck out of the scene for a while and let you two talk, because Clara is socially aware enough to realize she put her foot in something. She's not totally sure what right now, which is a real uncomfortable place for her, because she's normally really aware, and these are her fucking siblings. So she feels like that she messed something up. She can't figure out what it is. She is not up to having that conversation because hard, deep talk is hard, and she's high and would rather just drink about it. So she's just going to go down and have a drinking lunch at the craps table and be like, if you need me, I'll be in the high rollers pit, but I just want to, this has been a lot. I'm tired. I'd like to go relax.
Okay.
Matthew will definitely give her, when they're in private, give her a kiss before she goes and like give her support.
She kisses him back and she goes, I love you. I love you both. I'm sorry. I love you. And then she goes out the door. It's clearly the I did bad and I'm not certain. I feel real bad about it. So I'm going to go drown myself in vice.
Okay. So Clara runs away from her own fuck ups again.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency is key.
In character. So
yeah.
Leaves you two in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
So the door shuts with the heavy, thick clack of the solid steel construction of the locks.
Matthew pours them both a drink. He will pick them up and hand one of them to Bethany, and then say, I'm not going to insult you by asking if you feel all right.
Good.
She was not at her best self. She didn't want to hurt you. I know she did.
Is that the important part? That she didn't mean it?
If that was the important part, I would be with her right now instead of with you. Because she feels terrible about it. But I need to talk to you because it happened to you. And I love you.
I love you both.
If I could take the words out of the air, I would.
I am not a useful tool for the both of you. I'm not David. I'm not Mr. Hawthorne.
I don't want a tool from you. I want a sister. You know that. And you understand more about this than I do. We both have our specialties.
We do. What is it that we're doing here? I know why we came. I know why we did what we last did, but we've now found the people who presumably dragged us here to try and murder us. We stopped that. But not just why are we here in Las Vegas? Why are we still in Elysium? What do we need to leave? It's been 3 years.
We can't take the throne if we don't have enough power. You know that.
Yeah, but is the power here worth anything real?
It's a way to gain power so that we can be there.
If I need to get there.
You have an understanding of this that we don't. We're trying to follow Bethany, but there are the ways that we understand this world aren't the same ways that you do.
No.
We're trying to find a path.
I want the path.
Could you repeat that again here?
I want the path that takes us all there together.
I do too. The end goal for this is for us to go and rule outside of a prison. You know that. But
I know how much longer I can live in a prison. I've lived in a prison my entire life. It was a beautiful one, but I wasn't allowed to leave. I know you stayed, Matthew. I know you stayed and felt like I did, and I know we felt obligations to Papa, but you were allowed to have a life. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. Those 10 years that Mr. Hawthorne spent in the hospital, I spent upstairs in my room.
I know my cage was larger than yours.
It all feels very small now. I don't know if things are keeping us here. I don't know if I can just reach out and change you or Clara and fix it and make it better. And I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to break you, and I don't want to do what they did to Mr. Hawthorne, though he is oracular. You know that, right? He's gently ahead of the game.
That makes sense, but also I didn't know. And that's the thing. We're peeling back layers, but we're still blind, Bethany. We're trying to fumble towards this. We're trying to gain the power that you already have.
I don't have a decade to wait, so we need to figure out another way.
We hoped that if we can take the power that they've been gathering, the remainders of the Phoenix Society, if we can try to shape Metropolis here, those are ways that we can try.
I want us to go to Metropolis. I want to find the empty thrones. I want to find God and drag him back before us, because we don't deserve him. don't deserve it. And every day you stay here, I feel it against my skin.
He will press his forehead against Bethany's and put his hands on her shoulders. How long can you wait? And I will try to make sure that we follow the right timeline.
I don't know, but I'll wait as long as I can. I want you all with me, but I can't bring Metropolis here. I can try to work. We can work to get us to Metropolis with whatever power we have, but I don't want to build Metropolis in Elysium.
We need to find a way so that when we walk there, we're not walking as powerless entities. We need to find a way to gather power here before we can go there. You know that. We can't just be helpless.
I'm not asking you to be helpless. I'm telling you, with the power here, it's built here, it might hold you. Yes, maybe. We have to find the power that will come with it.
I agree with that.
The other day in the hospital, I don't think I could now, and I would ask for forgiveness. I think I could pull Claire's addiction out of her. I think I could make her stop wanting me. I saw where it was.
I don't. Her addiction isn't what's holding her back.
Yeah, well, where's your Metropolis heroine? I don't know, but will she come with us if that's you? Would you leave her? You wouldn't.
We're small, but
I will wait as long as I can. But I was not made to survive this realm.
help us not. Let me try to figure out something about the heroine, but help us find the power that we can bring with us. We need a guide. You've always seen before us. I can lead, but I need your eyes.
I do what I can.
I'll talk to Clara. Please don't rip out parts of her, though.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'm not even good for her.
Do you think that holds her back that much?
Remember hell? Remember the Inferno? Remember what she did? She used there too.
It didn't just tempt her with drugs. Do you think that that's also a problem?
Yeah, but she took those drugs and used them. If there's not what she needs in Metropolis, I don't know that she would. I think she'd want to, but I don't know that she would, not if it were here.
She wants to be with her family.
I know.
We'll figure it out.
I'm gonna go take another shot.
Okay. Thank you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you too. But thank you for waiting.
I don't want to go alone.
I don't want to make you. Neither of us do.
I know. I'm trying.
And he will pet her. He'll lean back and he'll pet her hair and say, I'll see you after your shower.
Time to go scrub all that off because that was icky.
Okay, player check-in. Are we okay? Okay, good.
I'm having a couple of emotions, but like Matthew's gonna go conceal, don't feel. But he's gonna like look out the window pensively. If this was a film, like it'd be like the pensive window look moment.
Yeah. Okay. One, that was incredibly powerful and I loved it. Two, Bethany, how did it feel to admit out loud that you could stick your fingers in Clara's aura and wiggle it around and fix her?
Like it was important that Matthew knew. Like that, not that she wants to, but that Clara's addiction recently has been dangerous. She could have gotten nabbed at the psych ward. Half the reason she said the thing that she said the way she said it is because she was high. Like she's not careful with herself or with other people right now. She's just not. And she doesn't, like Bethany doesn't want to fix her sister, but she's worried that like we can't just ship Clara off to rehab for 6 months and make her wait it out. You know, she's going to come back to where we are. It's not going to stop whatever that addiction is. And that Clara's not really built to not have that be a part of her. And it was like, it's like in case of emergency, pull this lever. Essentially is how, like, it was good to let the person who she trusts in the emergency know that in case of emergency, pull this lever. That is Bethany. Because she cares about her siblings and loves them both deeply and wants them both to come with her on this very strange journey of enlightenment, and is desperately worried that she will lose them both to each other and this world and money and power for Matthew and fame and, you know, vice for Clara. And that it's their cage is comfortable and hers is not.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oof.
Mm.
Okay. Clara.
Yes.
Walking down the hallway of the Tropicana towards the public areas, towards the casinos and the restaurants, how are you feeling and where are you going first?
Oh, she's going straight to the tables. She's just going to the place where they will give her as many drinks as she wants, don't care how much she smokes, and will let her gamble a lot of money on random stupid chances and be surrounded by people. So she's going to craps because she wants to be the most popular person. And as long as she can get on a hot roll. And so I feel like Matthew has his pensive stare out the window, and Bethany is in like the sad shower times of every movie.
And then we cut to a super jarring, loud, bright scene where you've got the camera on the craps table looking up,
surrounded by people laughing and drinking, and she rolls another like 8. So she hits her mark on the craps roll, and everybody is cheering, and she is laughing happily, and somebody passes her another drink, and it is the laughter that is just slightly too loud. That is jarring and manic and out of control, but riding that high of people around her and of a good roll and of how many drinks has she had since breakfast, which was a grapefruit, and trying to forget how badly she hurt her sister and what she fucked up there. And it's just like, no, this is fine. I know how to control people. I will start my show and I will start my cult because look at how much people love me and they're giving me another drink and we're going to roll again.
Super healthy.
Super healthy. And then she sevens out and like the table dies for a moment because that's what happens. And people are like, no, it's okay. But people start walking away and it just goes from the manic high energy to like when you crash. And she's like, no, just give me the dice back again. Like, come on, keep rolling. I promise you the next time you give me the dice, we'll make it 10 rolls this time instead of 9.
Clara, it is a solid 15 seconds of the feeling of nails on blown glass, trying to claw your way back from a frictionless surface, before you realize that the croupier has actually shut the table down.
Oh.
And they give you they give you what is probably a unprofessionally sympathetic smile. You know, it's normally you just get the very like, sorry, you know, just the very like, you know, we're like, this is what we do. But this person actually gives you there's a little bit of real emotion in it. And the thing that fucking sucks is it's not anything Clara wants to see. It's that like, sorry, it's over. Yeah. That, you know, that kind of feeling. And then there is a presence behind you and to your left as the emotional like constriction of the high wearing off and the deep and compelling need to fix it, which with the happiness on command of heroin. And you know that if you could just get somewhere and do another hit, no, it's fine. It's okay. You can do 2 hits in 4 hours. Why would that be a problem? Standing slightly behind you is the floor boss. That slightly ominous, slightly sexy man of non-specific Latin heritage.
Mac
in his
Prince. Mac Prince, that's the name I have down.
It's there it is.
Yep.
Because I didn't, so good job note-taking person.
Yeah.
That was earlier the game. I was flipping through all of my notes trying to find the name, but you wrote it down and I didn't. So good job. Yes, and he speaks to you, and there is an accent there, and it is absolutely not one you've ever heard. Now, Miss Carmen, the chef that you all grew up with, the cook of the house, was Puerto Rican, and so you've heard more than 0, you know, Latin influenced English, and this is not that. It is a completely different accent, and it's extremely subtle, and it just kind of hangs out around the vowels. So it's almost indistinguishable, but it's there. And he gives you this smile, and his voice sounds like cigar smoke feels. Like this is the voice this is the guy who announces the singer at a jazz club. This is the voice that would be over the radio late at night. This is, it's decadent.
Yeah,
decadent. His voice is decadent. And he says, Albert Einstein once said, the only way you could cheat at craps is to steal chips when the croupier isn't looking.
Do you want to search me? I promise you, I don't have any hidden pockets that I should let you into, at least.
The look you know what? Let's roll that disadvantage right now.
Oh, no.
Let's roll that disadvantage right now. All right?
Yeah, fair enough.
You fucking took it.
10.
Oh, man. Which one is that called?
Object of desire.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I have any negatives right now.
No, that's just all the disadvantages are like a straight roll.
So,
someone becomes desirous of you. The GM takes one hold. Yes. Okay. So good news, bad news. You have the attention of Mac Prince, the pit boss. And when you say, that I'll let you into a profoundly blatant sexual comment for any decade, frankly, and especially this one, maybe Clara was going for shock value. That was pretty racy. Were you going for shock or just what you just wanted a response?
yeah. She wanted to put him off his game because he has the power here. She wanted to take the power back. And if she takes that back by being attractive and very Mae Westy, which is how Clara often interacts, especially with men in power and entertainment venues.
Yes. Which is who this person is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's just put on the Mae West so she can have all of the power and the men are fawning around her, even if it means she has to be a little on edge,
Yes. A little more straightforward than is really appropriate.
Being subtle is boring. Hollywood has made it. She looks at his face because there's probably a moment she's like, being subtle is boring. Hollywood's made us subtle since 1929. They're not censoring us here. We might as well have a little fun.
Yeah, that's the line that does it. You've grabbed his attention. And at this moment, the axis of the conversation pivots slightly, and he goes from like, I am here to soothe your hurt feelings because we did shut the table down and because I had to do my pit boss things. And he went from, I'm here to soothe your hurt feelings to, well, hell, I might be taking the rest of the day off. Like there's, he's not heavy brows, but he's got, thick eyebrows, and one of them kind of perks up on his forehead underneath his coiffed hair. And he gives you a very slow, lazy panther smile. And he says, well, why don't we, let's say I treat you to lunch and we talk about what kind of things you wish you could say.
I want to read a person. I don't have any sixth sense. I only have like location powers, not people powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong person to be doing this.
That'll teach you not to spend your advances.
All right. 4
plus intuition.
Oh, that's it's going to be a 12.
Okay. Ask one question.
Read a person. All right. How could I get you to give me power?
Ooh. Okay.
Sorry. I saw that last question and I'm like, that's all Clara cares about.
Be decadent with him.
All right.
He is a pit boss. He works here. He is in the position that he is because in this sensory place, he is comfortable. And he is a fatty, rare steak eating, dirty martini drinking, very strongly flavored whiskey humidored cigar smoking person. And one of the ways that you could tell this, kind of your read a person, is it is subtle because it has clearly been worked very, very well. And so it's almost impossible to tell. But this guy is wearing a 3-piece suit.
Mm-hmm.
And but the vest, the pocket square, and his tie are leather. Really, really thin, like, for those of you crafters at home, like 1 to 2 ounce leather. And it's very smooth. It's been very well worked. It's been oiled and polished to the point where it's almost convincingly somewhere like on the satin or silk visual range. But then you get a little bit closer and you're like, no, that's fucking leather.
And it is.
Yeah. And the thing that really made you recognize the decadence is the fact that when you made one of your more salacious comments, his response was to kind of like run his finger along the hem of the vest in that very like, I touch things that feel good while I think sort of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want power from this guy, you need to indulge his decadence.
Yeah, she does. She goes to lunch with him. And she dances this very careful dance of she doesn't actually want to sleep with him. She'll have fun with him. She will drink with him. She will flirt and do all of the fun things. But it's the gentle promise of, if you keep giving me more contacts, more access to the hotel, industry name, so she could get this show set up. Like, she's going to talk about, I have this idea and I talked to Frankie and a few other people, but I haven't figured out where to put it out yet. Like, she's gently working him. She did come into this lunch with a want to get power, but she enjoys flirting and she enjoys drinking, and she wants to string him along with the, if you just give me one more contact, maybe I'll go home with you tonight.
And you know what? He has the conversation. He gives comments. He has been here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He has not been here for 3 weeks. He did not get hired the day before you guys arrived. He has been here for a while. He knows almost everyone. And what's interesting is that he references everyone by their vices. It's like he doesn't, it's like his Rolodex is name, vice, and then association.
So useful.
It's like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I know Sam. He drinks Glenlivet, and like he knows their vices. And it almost seems like when he gets a name and the vice, then he has an association string in his memory. But it's the XY coordinate in his brain is vice and then name.
Which, like, Clara's like, I love this guy.
Yes.
Like, everything he says is informational. He is incredibly perfect. And towards the end of lunch, and he does get a little bit of food. He orders a steak. He orders like a 6 ounce, like a lunch steak. And he, you know, he gets the steakhouse plate. So he gets the big thick slices of tomato, and he gets the steak and the pommes frites. And it's, you know, a very classic American kind of man's lunch. And does Clara eat, or does she keep her lunch liquid, or is she just
She does.
Okay.
It's like it's a salad and probably more grapefruit and some chicken on it. Like it's a light lunch, but she absolutely eats. She's a lifetime addict and vice person, and she knows if she doesn't lay down some groundwork, she can't keep going. So she has to put some food in her.
The only thing that's kind of a challenge in this situation is that when you order a dressing, he corrects your dressing. And you can stop him because it's not critical, but he corrects your dressing into like the house vinaigrette or something.
No, she lets him. She's curious.
And he explains that it's actually made from like bacon drippings. Like it's a very rich, fatty, smoky vinaigrette. It's like, and of course, it's probably the most like the best mouthfeel, the most unctuous thing available. And it's just like so everything he does is focused on vice and gambling. And even when you have lunch, like a couple of the people come over and have a whispered conversation, and he doesn't dismiss them, but his answers are very simple. Like, deal with it, shut it down, buy him lunch. Like and so towards the end, and this is gonna be where we cut, because of course I love tense cliffhangers, and we do need to have I think we should have a little bit of at least on camera debrief after tonight. He leans in and if he puts his hand on Clara's thigh, is she going to say no? It's a very forward maneuver.
Nah. Skirt's still on, stockings are still on, it's fine. As long as he doesn't go above the thigh-high line, it's fine.
No, it's definitely it's the safe side of racy.
Okay, then that stays.
Yeah. And he puts his hand and he leans in, and you can smell the meat on his breath now, and you can smell the acid of the tomatoes and the cigars and his cologne. It is decadent, and it is masculine almost to the point of obscenity. Yeah. And he leans in and you can feel his breath on your ear, and his breath is too warm. And there's I don't want to say plant-like, but there's definitely like a rich feeling to it, like his breath is humid. And he leans in, he says, "Tell the blonde not to cheat at my tables." And then he leans back like he just said he was going to fuck you for 12 straight hours, winks at you, and pushes back and away. "I need to get back to work." And walks away, giving you the consolation prize of noticing that his suit is very well tailored.
I have questions, but that is a good ending point, and Clara's probably slightly too high and drunk to really get details.
Yeah, that is not what you thought. Like,
No.
Clara had her entire speech for like, are we having sex? Am I having sex? Do I need to talk to Matthew first? Like the whatever decision tree she would have for a situation like this.
Just
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, record scratch, break screech.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably wondering how I got here.
Bless.
And remember, if you're acting like the Van Horsts, go to fucking therapy. Please. All right. Thank you. Good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks.